I'm Kat Cheney from Nation Swell, and I'm here with Heather Smith from Rock the Vote. Heather, thanks for joining us.
My pleasure.
So can you talk a little bit about the mission of Rock the Vote and the motivation for it to start?
Young people cared about a lot of things, but they were ignored by politicians and they weren't participating. And we needed an organizing vehicle to really build political power for young people in this country and ensure that their voices were being heard. So 1990, 91, a bunch of artists and musicians got together and said, wait a minute, we talk to young people every single day. What if we used our voice to actually encourage them to get involved and to motivate this kind of self-expression?
Don't just sit there, let's get to it. Speak your mind, there's nothing to it. Vote!
So one of the things that Rock the Vote does well is making something that may not seem cool, cool.
Voting.
Voting. So, I mean, that's a really interesting strategy, but it's sort of hard to say, this is how you make something cool. How do you make something cool?
You don't want someone to walk into this process and just do it because they're being told. You want to do it because it's part of their identity, right? Like, this is totally punk rock for me to be a part of this initiative and this community and this movement. And well, you can tell when I grew up, I'm like punk rock, right? But you have to figure out how to create that. And actually, when you think about it, it's all about power. And that's pretty sexy at the end of the day. We just have to show that side of it.
There's so much out there right now about how young people who want to create change may actually be looking further and further away from Washington. How does that change your approach when you try to encourage young people to register to vote?
They see a problem, they say, oh, well, fine, I'll fix that, whether that's through funding from Kickstarter and different entities like that. And, you know, that's inspiring. It also makes me a little bit nervous and in many ways kind of elevates the need for something like Rock the Vote, where we say that is awesome and we should all be fixing our own problems. We should be doing something about the things that we want changed. Yeah. But we also can't forget the collective action. So you alone can do a little bit, but you, with the 47 million young people in this country, can make a really big statement too.
And you know, you just came from standing out in the rain, getting people to register to vote, right?
I did. How's my hair look?
Looks good. You're looking good. It's all for good cause.
That's right.
But what personally motivates you to put in the hours you put into this mission over so many years you've been working on this?
I started myself as someone who cared a lot about different issues. For me personally, it was the environment, and we were organizing as a student on campus, and those who were making decisions, they just weren't paying any attention to my friends and I. And we realized that if we wanted permanent change, we had to be a part of the political process, not just screaming and yelling from the outside.
Voter registration is still a pretty clunky process.
Yes.
So can you talk about how that drives your organization?
Filling out a piece of paper feels really foreign right now to somebody. It just doesn't meet the expectations of young people you expect to be able to do it online. We've been developing and working with states to create fully integrated online voter registration systems where we can create a Facebook app for someone to fill in their information, and that can get submitted straight to the state, so you're done.
When it comes to new technology and young people being so plugged in online and so plugged in on their smartphones, do you think that's a good thing for participatory democracy or a bad thing overall? And maybe it's a mix of both.
It is what it is, but can we figure out how to work in that climate? And I'll tell you, it has allowed us to scale our work in a way that would never have been possible beforehand. We are a dozen staff, 150 artists, and hundreds of thousands of volunteers. And we run the largest voter engagement campaigns in the country outside of the presidential candidates. And it's all about that peer-to-peer communication.
What's your sales pitch about why that vote is still very relevant and important?
Yeah. Well, as you can imagine, right now is a tough time to be talking about politics. It feels ugly in D.C. when you're in D.C., and it feels even uglier when you're outside of it, right? But we have two options. You opt out and let that continue and let the power concentrate more and more in the people who are making those decisions and making it the way it is, or we make it our own. And you only do that when you opt in and you take it over. The good news is right now there's enough young people in this country who are registered and who are engaged that we can take it back. We just have to show up on Election Day.
Thank you so much, Heather. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks, Kat.